Sometimes the workers from the generator factory in Shanghai organize a kind of celebration for themselves and their children. The main attraction is a foot race through the factory grounds.
Before the Cultural Revolution, we all had time cards. Let me show you. We had to punch in at the main entrance. Here there was a large board. There were 300 of us in the shop. You had to have your card punched every morning. You had to punch in on one side, turn the card over, and put it back. We had to punch it twice, in the morning and out in the evening. Any lateness was penalized. If it happened more than once, you would lose your bonus, or your salary would be lowered. Everything was put in terms of money. No one believed in our political consciousness. It was a way of dividing the workers. We don't punch in anymore. Everyone is conscientious. There are only a few who arrive late, and they just explain why. For example, suppose you live far away and come to work by bicycle. The chain breaks on the way. You arrive late. You just tell your comrades what happened. Everything is explained, and that's the end of it. There are still some workers who lack self-discipline. We have to try to educate them very patiently. We try to convince them. Since the Cultural Revolution, we take our work more seriously. We've progressed ideologically, and our consciousness is higher. People are seldom late now and show a lot of initiative, so our production has increased considerably. If you have confidence in the workers, they'll show initiative. But if you don't trust them, they'll lose interest in their work. How do you establish production standards? We used to use a stopwatch, like this, to calculate the time needed to make each part. We thought this was a scientific method. For example, if you started working on a part, I'd take out my stopwatch and start it, then put it back in my pocket. Later on, I'd check the watch to see how much work time it took to finish. I'd verify the actual work time. We've done away with these methods. The production schedule used to be decided by a small minority. Now the workers set it up themselves. They have a higher level of consciousness. The new standards are set by a 3-in-1 group of cadres, workers, and technicians. The group sets up the new standards, paying special attention to the workers' initiative. Now we use 3-in-1 groups of cadres, technicians, and workers who meet to discuss the standards. Before, there were jobs we couldn't finish on time. Now, with our new standards, our production has increased. Take, for example, the 125,000 kilowatt pump. Before, it took 15 days to make one. Now, it only takes 3 days. That's it. How much do you earn? The salary question is a complicated one. We inherited it from the old society. There's a nationwide effort to narrow the gaps. I started at the factory after the liberation. With my seniority, I earn 105 yuans. And you? 74. 80 yuans. I make 69 yuans. I make 53 yuans. I'm new. I make only 42 yuans. 58 yuans. In our shop, the highest salary is 126 yuans. And the lowest is 42 yuans. 42 yuans.
The workers are organized in groups of 12. Each person, besides his regular job, takes on other responsibilities for things like health, safety, or bookkeeping. This keeps the office staff to a minimum. In these same groups, people discuss the political side of everything, from national issues to everyday life.
I think the question is, Should factories use the bonus system at this stage? If we raise this question in the context of socialism, I think we must differentiate between a cash stimulation and a reward system. I think the reward system is really necessary. We must not confuse it with the system of cash stimulation advocated by Liu Shaoqi. The reward system only benefits those who really deserve it. You say the reward system benefits the most deserving. Therefore, only a few workers, in other words, those who work more. I don't see much difference between the cash stimulation and reward systems. I say we need the reward system. At this stage of socialism, advanced workers who make significant contributions should be rewarded. The reward system is necessary. I don't agree with her. She says the reward system is only for those who've made significant contributions. If that's true, then it concerns very few workers. If we have to establish a system, let's not create one for just a few. Xiaozhou says there is a difference between the reward and the cash stimulation systems. I say they're the same. Why? Because the reward system will never liberate our productive energies. Only the revolution can. It has nothing to do with Liu Shaoqi's cash stimulation. I think some material incentives are still needed. In the socialist system, we distribute in proportion to work. To each according to his work. If you do a lot of work, and your level of consciousness is high, you have a right to an appropriate material reward. You think we're talking about cash stimulation. You're confused. In a socialist society, each worker must become a conscious revolutionary. Otherwise, we'll stay dependent on rewards and lose our revolutionary consciousness. The rewards only benefit a minority. I maintain there's no difference. You say that it encourages the more advanced workers and stimulates the slower ones. I'm all for giving bonuses to the advanced workers, but do you think a hero like Lei Feng needed a reward? In giving them bonuses, you're actually belittling them. For example, take a sick man who needs medical care. He may need a little opium. But you're healthy. And if I give you some opium, perhaps it will make you feel good. You'll respond to the stimulation, but gradually you'll need more and more, and finally become addicted. Nowadays, we don't work for capitalists or bosses. We work for the people. That's why the quality of your work directly affects all the workers. When you understand the new production methods, you'll take your work more seriously. As long as we emphasize the political side of things, there's no harm in material rewards. And they go along with the principle of from each according to his ability to each according to his work. We've been talking about a reasonable system of rewards, but we're not neglecting political work. Reasonable rewards doesn't mean stopping political work. But there's a contradiction. Either we raise the level of consciousness or we give out rewards. The two things are contradictory. It's obvious. Everything depends on politics, including economics. It's got nothing to do with rewards. Chairman Mao wasn't talking about rewards when he spoke about just ideas and the transformation of the world. But you're forgetting what Lenin said about using propaganda to help production. Yes, Lenin said to consider historical context, otherwise nothing makes sense, right? But the Liu Shaoqi group also talked about reasonable rewards. So they gave out bonuses. And then what happened? Look at what happened in shop number 11. They decided to use the reward system. And what good was it? In the beginning, little by little, the bonuses were not so important. But little by little, they weren't enough. And in the end, everyone wanted bonuses. Bonuses for everyone with no exception. I think time is almost up. The discussion has been very interesting and lively. It really shows us that everyone has his own idea on the reward system. To summarize, there are two opinions. Some say we need a reward system to develop productive forces at a certain stage in the history of socialism. Others think these rewards do more harm than good, and that they encourage the notion of private property against the interests of the working class. These 2 points of view have not been resolved. We're out of time now. We can continue the discussion next time, all right?
The discussion here has come to a temporary halt. But as soon as the meeting is over, our cameraman, Li Tse-Chang, picks it up again. Before long, the entire film crew is in a heated debate over the same questions. Official policy is in favor of eliminating the bonus system, but putting that into practice is another matter. In many places, the question remains open.
They're all right. The discs can come up now. They can be attached.
Cheng and Huang are two officials in charge of running a generator factory. We met them at an exhibition on the Paris Commune.
I've worked here since the liberation of Shanghai. First, I was a worker. Then I was a party official until the Cultural Revolution. When the party committee was reinstated, I became assistant secretary. I've been here since the Great Leap Forward in '58. I was a quality controller in the casting section. I was an ordinary worker up until the Cultural Revolution. Then I took part in the revolt. Afterwards, I was elected to the Revolutionary Committee as a provisional member. Now I'm a permanent one, and I'm also on the party committee. A factory must be run by everyone together, and not by a few officials. The workers help run the entire factory, from general administration down to each workshop and group. They also take part in the leadership of the revolutionary committees and of the party committee. The workers actually run the factory themselves and make all the important decisions. At the beginning of the first 5-year plan, everything was completely centralized. We lacked experience. We were still using the Soviet system with one leader in charge. In the factory, there was one manager and one foreman in each shop. This kept the party on the sidelines and gave the power to a few individuals. The Central Committee and Chairman Mao noticed this, and things started to change during the second 5-year plan. Absolute ultra-democracy started during the Cultural Revolution. After our return to power and before the Revolutionary Committee was set up, at that time, the tendency toward ultra-democracy emerged in many areas. Before making any decisions, the party committee must consult the workers. We listen and we discuss. Whenever our opinions conflict, we ask the workers for advice. This way, the management staff and the workers can always come to an agreement. The factory used to be controlled by a national office. Now it's under city administration. It's administered by the Shanghai Bureau of Mechanical Industry. Our production is part of a state plan. The state includes our quality standards and our annual output in its plan. But the factory takes all the initiative in getting the job done and in mobilizing the workers.
Before deciding to film the generator factory, we visited a steel mill, a tractor factory, a shipyard, and a watch factory. In all, 14 factories. Some were well known for having played an outstanding role in the Cultural Revolution, but they weren't what we were looking for. We chose the generator factory because it had no special recommendation. It is just an ordinary factory. Twice a day, at 10 in the morning and at 4 in the afternoon, the factory comes to a halt for 20 minutes. The workers find many different ways of using the rest period. The factory has its own medical center, and each workshop has a first aid station. The doctors not only take care of on-the-job injuries, but also the general health needs of the workers and their families. One day a week, doctors and nurses work at the machines.
I feel faint sometimes, and I have a hard time waking up in the morning. Do you feel dizzy? I feel weak, no appetite. The baby's heartbeat is fine. You can get dressed. Do your feet swell? Neither of them? How old are you? 26. Is this your first child? Yes, it is. How long have you been married? Almost 2 years. When will you stop working? After the 6th month, we get lighter work. If you work on a lathe, for example, you can switch to the supply room. If you prefer to have your child in town, you can go to Shanghai a few days before. Yes, you can stop 2 weeks before. That way you can go to Shanghai. I will then. Maternity leave is 56 days, right? If it's a difficult birth, 77 days. 70 days. But if you need to ask your doctor to extend it, he'll agree. On maternity leave, we still get our salary. Yes, 100%. Nothing is deducted. In the medical center, we also have a family planning program. During consultations, we give advice and information on birth control. Some women take the pill, others use an IUD. If someone wants an abortion, we handle that too. Who takes care of the baby after it's born? All the children go to the nursery on the factory grounds. While the child is nursing, the mothers work 7 hours a day, with 1 hour for nursing. Yes, 1 hour. The babies go to the nursing room when they're 56 days old. You were naughty. Now you're nice.
Do you work here?
Yes, I do. What do you do? I'm an arc welder. Is your wife here with you? No, just my daughter. My wife works in Hefei. Then you take care of the baby yourself? Yes, I do. How come your wife doesn't take care of her? She's been with me ever since she was born. My wife was in Shanghai, and she didn't have any time to take care of her. She didn't have any time. Let's go home, Daddy. Daddy's going to take you somewhere. We'll go home. But don't you want to go watch the people fishing?
Some of the workers live in Shanghai, 20 miles away. Many of them prefer to go home only on weekends. During the week, they live in this building, on the factory grounds. Workers and cadres share rooms for 6 to 8 people.
Ah, you're back. I'm tired. Was it long? I'm ready for a shower.
Work starts here at 7:30 in the morning and ends at 5 in the afternoon. It's the same as in most other factories. In addition to the 2 daily breaks, work stops for lunch between 11:30 and 1 o'clock.
The factory employs more than 8,000 people in dozens of shops and offices. Our problem is how to bring the factory's leadership closer to the workers. Political consciousness and production can still be improved. Since we've become managers, we've often been tempted to sit back and relax. We work less and spend more time in the offices than with the workers. We usually just hand down the orders. Even the new cadres should do a lot of manual work to keep in touch with the workers. It's also the best way we have to keep check on revisionism. We've all been workers, Huang too. But if you stop manual work, you forget what it's like to be a worker. Besides, we must stay in close contact with the workers to really understand all the production problems. Our presence gives the workers a chance to tell us what's bothering them and to criticize our weak points. It's very important in changing our ideas and in our work.
When someone wants to make a criticism, he just takes a brush and some ink, writes it out on a piece of paper, posts it up on the wall, and signs it. These wall posters are called dadzibaos. This traditional form of expression played such an important role in the Cultural Revolution that the right to post dadzibaos was included in the new Constitution.
Look at this. The production group is isolated, like a goalkeeper. It doesn't look like communist style to me. They say production looks like a bunch of noodles. We've been talking things over in the shop. We don't think the managers come down to the shops enough to see about production. In the Shanghai watch factory, they've put up revolutionary datsibaos. Our whole section is talking about it. Today, the party committee has sent Comrade Chang to visit our section. This proves they are trying to follow the watch factory's example. We hope you'll come back when we've finished our discussions. We'll let you know. It's good that you've come down to the shop. I happen to have a question. You can see we have a lot of stators, 100, 200, maybe 300, but almost no rotors. So we can't do any assembling. Our problem is we need more space and more manpower. That's what we need. How's it going? Not too bad. But we need machines. Like that one. We need to buy some more. We don't have enough. And as Xiao Kao said, we need rotors.
Newspapers in Shanghai have just published the articles and dazibaos written by the workers of the watch factory. The articles explain why they criticize the existing management and how they are experimenting with a more democratic system of factory management. In China, one of the essential roles of a newspaper is to make these experiments known, whether they are ultimately successful or not. For the last few days, articles about the watch factory have been stirring up a lot of interest in the factories around Shanghai, including the generator factory.
We've been having discussions here in the assembly shop. All the groups have talked things over. Everybody agrees. What the watch factory did was really good, but our factory is a big one, with 8,000 workers. The watch factory is much smaller. They produce less. We workers think that our factory, compared to the watch factory, still has a long way to go. We've got a lot to say about the management. Our dazibaos will be aimed at you. For example, about the work schedule. At the beginning of each month, we haven't got much work, but at the end of the month, we can hardly catch up. This is the kind of thing you managers ought to know about. The work plan must be more precise. You have to come to the shop more often, or our suggestions will be useless. If you don't, you'll get our dazibaos. You must keep on warning us about things. That's all well and good, but we want some action. We've heard that one of the shops is making parts that they don't need, but the management keeps on ordering. That's a waste. If that shop doesn't need any, we can give them to other shops. It's a case of irresponsibility. The management should be told to send them where they're needed and not where they're useless. We must meet our responsibilities and speak out. The watch factory is well ahead of us. As for the administrators, we hardly ever see them in the shops. They're used to listening to production reports from behind their desks, so they can never solve the workers' problems in time. What can we put for a title? Well, what about "There's an old ox pulling the cart," which means we want the managers to help increase production. When did the watch factory article come out? March 10th. That proves the management is much too slow and are not determined. You try to call them on the phone, but the line's dead. It's like having a flat tire. The wheels are stuck in the desert sand. Yes, that's good. A truck gets stuck in the desert, and it makes a lot of noise, but doesn't go anywhere. Yes, the truck doesn't move. Good, that's right. We're driving a truck in the desert. In the desert. The first sentence is, our truck is in the desert. The motor is making a lot of noise, but the truck doesn't move. I'll start writing. Write big. That line, thicker. A truck, rolling along. Pass me the blue pencil. Here it is. Just like in school. Draw the sand underneath. The comparison must be clear. It looks like... It's on the next page. Here. Technicians have united with the workers to improve production. We must protect the fruits of the Cultural Revolution. And here, we must establish new relationships between management and workers. Is it ready to go? We've emphasized how far behind we are in relation to the watch factory. 1, cadres must do manual labor. 2, get the workers to help improve management. Right? 3, stay in contact with the workers to solve problems fast. 4, resolve production problems dialectically. That's all? Nothing else? No, that's everything. Bring the glue. Over here. Do you want to sign? Who wants to sign first? Go on, go ahead. What about you, Chen Yaote? Sign for all of us. Leave some room for the others. Your writing's too big. How's that? Okay? You just have to be clear about things. There may be other ways of doing things, but we prefer dajibaos. This way, our criticisms get around to all the workers. The workers heard about what was happening at the watch factory through the newspapers. They were excited about it and decided to do something along the same lines. In studying the watch factory, we managers realized how far behind we were. So we asked the workers to join us in starting this campaign. Had the criticisms made in the Dazibaos already been brought to your attention in some other way? Yes, some of them, right? Yes, for example, some of the buildings have leaks, and there are production problems. We've made some changes in the way we work, but we're still not close enough to the workers. The distances between us still exist. We leaders have a hard time changing our views. It takes time. Chairman Mao says, as we transform the objective world, we must also transform our thinking, so that our ideas adjust to the new reality. That's why the workers say, we're like a car stuck in the sand. Are Dazibaos the same today as they were during the Cultural Revolution? Their form is the same as at the beginning of the Cultural Revolution, but the content has changed. During the Cultural Revolution, their main objective was to condemn the reactionary bourgeois line of Liu Shaoqi. Today, they criticize mistakes made by officials in their work. The old Dazibaos were aimed at an enemy. Now, they aim at contradictions in the new society, so they're different.
The members of the party committee who are responsible for general management have been forced to take some action. This is the first directors' meeting since the beginning of the movement.
It's no use pretending that running a factory is an easy job. If you want my opinion, the first thing we have to do is work out our political position. I think the workers are unsatisfied with the way we work. They think our administrative methods are too sloppy. Too many problems are neglected. For example, the workers in shop number 1, this year, their work has increased enormously, almost doubled, but they're still in the same building. It's much too small for the work they're doing. That's the kind of problem we should get to quicker. Today, the workers of shop number 3 had a lot to say about their tools. There's no one to repair them. They're in poor condition. Some that should measure 10 millimeters now only measure 6. We must admit that it's mainly a question of our political line. We can't just deal with isolated problems. I'd like to know what we can do here in our factory. It's obvious that our political line is one problem, but we must be more precise. For the moment, we are only making general observations. It's true that we can improve our work style by getting closer to the workers, but that's just one aspect. But if you go to the workers, you can solve things. And if we don't decide things here and now, we'll be criticized later on, and we won't know what to do. Don't you think so? I agree with Huang when he says that work style and management policy both depend on your political position. The political line you follow will determine the way you work. The question of political line seems abstract, but in fact it's concrete. There are Dazibaos everywhere. The party committee should appoint people to study each of them. We must try to give an answer to each dazibao. The workers must know that we are taking their criticism seriously. That will encourage them. Otherwise, we'll have more and more dazibaos, but no action on our side, and the workers will get discouraged. Our self-criticism will encourage the workers to bring all the problems to light. To profit from the watch factory's experience, we must take a good look at how our managers work. Over there, they take part in manual labor. I'm a new cadre. Since 1970, I've only worked once in a shop. Just once in 3 years, and I've never gone back. I'd like to point out that last year, some members of the party committee went to work in the shops for 3 months. The workers were pleased. But this year, we have a smaller staff and more work. There's a lot that should have been done. So I'd like to ask the leadership to act on this. Before April, we must send some comrades to work in the shops.
Today the machines have been turned off, but it's not one of the regular breaks, and it's not because the workday is over. A group of workers from one of the shops is putting on a play. They are acting out the story of how they built a huge 125,000 kilowatt generator.
The scene opens with the actor who plays the part of the party unit secretary. He is acting the part of an old, experienced worker. We who know nothing, he says, like a deaf mute learning to speak, have decided to take on the task of building the generator.
旧社会的穷工人今日把家当，这白天的劲头没用完，晚上接着忙。他决心改造发电机，打破洋框框。老班党、老厂匠带头把关厂，创造上水内人为毛主席争光。有个工程师，他名叫杨重阳，抽样流过血，还经过洋血厂。 听说炸药搞创造他赶忙来阻挡。这双水内人发电机是个啥模样
This is the engineer, loaded down with foreign diplomas. He opposes anything new that he hasn't read in his books.
我说工程师，你这是啥思想？
The older worker gives him the scolding he deserves.
斗志坚如钢，自力更生奋发图强，毛主席是方向。 攀登世界高，奉为祖国争光。闯将一番话，语重心长。
The engineer presents his self-criticism.
满脑洋框框，爬行主义、洋奴哲学流毒有多广？有志接受再教育，为毛主席争光。三结合，社稷主，闯上工厂啥？经我一出死，兴旺一出响。 造出3颗发电机，胸有朝阳，有心把歌唱，要起埋带长，跳舞蹈吧，腿脚不利索，打起竹板把天津快板说，老厂匠这节目到此告段落，到此告段落。
The The truck drivers are now going to sing about their meeting with Chairman Mao. The older workers have made me their spokesman. So if you'll listen, I'm here to tell you what they think. It's about the management. As we've already said, it's as if they were driving a truck in the desert. We hope they'll change their work style and do a better job. I have something to say. Our shop is involved too. The management says it appreciates our initiative. But look what happens in reality. We planned some projects a while ago. The workers were enthusiastic. We wanted technological innovations, and we were ready to act. But the administration wasn't interested. As a result, after all our hard work, nothing happened. The management only sends its technicians to the shops when production slows down. Then they blame the workers for everything. Sometimes I wonder if the Inspection Bureau really exists. We've heard about it, but it never solves anything. What about the function of the inspectors and the verification systems? These questions must be answered. They determine the quality and the quantity of our production. Last week there was a film showing. Some people were able to get good seats, while the others stood in line for nothing. That's how we discovered some people were getting special treatment. Some comrades came from the heating plant at Minhang to ask us when the water cooler would be finished. I wonder why we have an office staff, since they prefer to come to us directly. The watch factory was able to form a 3-in-1 group with its management. If it's not working here, it's our management's fault. It's up to the management to find a solution. The management must consult the workers and mobilize them. The electrical equipment companies of Wuxi, Suzhou, and Shanghai, and a theater group in Peking, have sent in some orders. And now they want to cancel the contracts. That's out of the question. Complain to the shipping department. We did. What do they say? They can't deliver. Why not? There's no way. But the trucks were free Saturday and Sunday. Maybe, but they said it's impossible. What can we do? The fact is, the project has been canceled. That's 240,000 yuans. A loss of 240,000 yuans. The value of several machines. This loss wasn't necessary. Do you realize what it means? It could have been avoided. The other shops are always ready to back us up. The management must take this into consideration and stand behind us too. And not just financially. The management is suggesting that the chemical section will be closed, moved to Shanghai. That's demoralizing for the workers. They feel they are working very hard on an abandoned ship. As far as we're concerned, the shop shouldn't be closed. We want to keep it running and increase production. This is one more proof that the workers still have confidence. It all depends on the management. It's up to the management. They only come to the shops to check on supplies. Working conditions don't interest them. That's why work isn't done very conscientiously. Now we know what the workers think. But we'd like to hear from the party officials, too. What's going on? The management is off in a world of its own. You can smell revisionism all the way up to the head of the party. They have cars, and they hold meetings. Lots of meetings, but no contact with the workers. What's so great about the administration building that some managers never leave it? Yesterday, we had a meeting of the party committee. We're determined to follow the watch factory's example. We must change our style of management. Make some big changes. I mean, in the way we work. This is what we plan to do. First, we'll form a group to go through all the questions brought up here, so that each one gets followed up. We'll have to work closely with the workers to accomplish this. And we'll also explain our failures. The comrades were right in criticizing me, and I'll have to correct my mistakes immediately. They were right in criticizing us for hiding behind a lot of talk and red tape. I think they were right. The meeting has to stop now because time is up. We'll have a new meeting at 5:45. This one is already very positive. Lao Li or any other comrades? Do you have something to add? No other comrades have anything to say? Then the meeting's over.
At 5:45, the meeting was resumed. When we left the factory a month and a half later, the meetings were still going on, and the space reserved for the dazibao had grown far too small. The movement lasted 3 months. It took 3 months for the workers to make all their criticisms, for the leaders to criticize themselves, and for the whole factory to get together and agree on how to reorganize production. In China, an official motto says, "Be prepared for the possibility of war." These words are not taken lightly. In the generator factory, 2/3 of the workers belong to infantry units or anti-aircraft batteries. The factory militia, as part of Shanghai's general defense plan, sees to it that neighborhoods, factories, and universities all organize their own defense. I am a worker. You are a peasant. He is a PLA man. These workers are having their 6th English lesson.
P6. We are workers.
I am a worker. Sit down, please. All right. You listen, please.
Lesson 6. Text. I am a worker. You are peasant. He is a PLA man. We all study 2 months workers every day.
All right, stop, please. All right, comrades, read after me. Let's read it again. Lesson 6.
Lesson 6. Text.
I am a worker.
I am a worker.
You are a peasant.
You are a peasant.
He is a PLA man.
He is a PLA man.
We all study Chamberlain's works every day.
We all study 2 months works every day.
Lesson 6.
Lesson 6.
Text.
Text.
I am a worker.
I am a worker.
You are a peasant.
You are a peasant.
The factory has its own classrooms. Night courses are given at 7 in the evening after an early dinner. Nearly 2,000 workers attend them regularly.
In order to build socialism, and later on communism, you need material security. But what you need most is to develop a communist consciousness. If we don't study politics, Marx and Lenin, how can we raise people's political consciousness? Building socialism and communism would be impossible. So one of the important functions of the party in the factory is to organize political study classes for workers and cadres. One might think that this would slow down production, but in fact, it increases it. The study of Marxism and Leninism and the understanding of materialism enables the workers to put their ideas into practice. We don't have to rely on money or threats to motivate the workers. We count on Marxism-Leninism. That's the difference between capitalist factories and ours. It increases production rather than slowing it down. I'd like to understand why you study 19th century philosophy. You mean the study of Engels' Anti-Düring. The Anti-Düring is one of the most important classical works of Marxism-Leninism. Although it was written in relation to a particular struggle between Marxism and opportunism in the 19th century, it's still valid. We study the Anti-Düring today to help us understand the meaning of materialism and of idealism. An impulsive reaction is very similar to a false intuitive thought. What is an impulsive reaction? What does intuitive thought mean? In the third chapter, Engels concentrated on denouncing and condemning Düring's a priorism. Düring taught and defended a priorism, claiming that principles exist prior to objects. Düring maintains that thought is a framework. According to him, the unity of one's thought creates the unity of being. For Düring, the relationship is that the unity of thought comes first, and that of being comes after. Let's say I want to go somewhere. I have to take a certain route, but I have a false intuition. I go in the opposite direction. I never arrive. We always act according to our thoughts. That's how I see it. If not, we'd be acting blindly. How can that be denied? What commands action, if not thought? First we have a concept in our head, then we act. You're wrong. If the concept comes first, that means thought. Matter exists objectively. It doesn't depend on man's will. It can never be created by will alone. Lao Li just said that he wanted to go east, but he went west because of a false intuitive thought. That's why he was wrong. And yet both east and west exist objectively. The problem is knowing if there are intuitive thoughts, not whether they are right or wrong. From a materialist point of view, we must not overemphasize intuitive thoughts. These thoughts may seem to jump to mind in a matter of seconds, as part of a process. But in reality, they are necessary conclusions. They are determined after long periods of practical experience or after careful reflection. They are founded objectively, after a long accumulation. Form and reality always have foundations. That's the first point. The second is, as impostors like Liu Shaoxi claimed, that thought explains everything, that everything is decided and created by thought. They fell completely into idealistic a priorism. Let's take an example, the recent problem we had with the double cooling turbo generator. There were two different points of view. Take it apart and start all over again, which would have kept us from finishing on time, or not take it apart and install an insulator. Taking it apart would have kept us from getting the job done, but installing an insulator was just what we needed. That proves that this intuitive thought was correct. But where does this thought come from? Where did it come from when the decision was made? Was it innate? Or did it spring right out of practical experience, from acquired knowledge? The question is, where did this thought come from? It's the result of accumulated experience. So it didn't just drop out of the sky. But intuitive thoughts do exist. If Lao Yu told us, take the rotor apart, wouldn't that be a sudden intuitive thought? Take it apart? If he told us to do it, we would. Because Lao Yu acts on the basis of his own experience. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. That idea should be criticized. A sudden intuitive thought, in my opinion, is actually a concept. The question is, where does this concept come from? If we just take things literally, we can accept the concept of wrong or right intuitive thoughts.
First, they study in small groups. Then all the groups meet together in a general assembly to present and discuss their work. These workers come from families that were illiterate just 30 years ago. Today, they have begun to reflect on philosophical issues which are considered too important to be left in the hands of a few specialists. Mao Zedong says, philosophy must liberate itself from the lecture halls. It must enter into each person's life.
I took a course on Engels' brilliant work, The Anti-Düring. I've understood the dialectical materialist theory on reflection, the concept of idealistic a priorism, metaphysics, and how to judge which political position is correct. We must criticize the absurd and reactionary ideas of impostors like Düring and Liu Shaoqi, their theories on eternal truths and absolute authority. We are Marxists and dialectical materialists. We believe that the idea of absolute authority is false. For many years, I've been active in the revolution. I'm familiar with revolutionary theory. Thanks to the Cultural Revolution, and thanks to the bitter struggle between the two political lines, I've learned that it's not enough to have working-class solidarity and a desire to work hard for the revolution. One must read Marx and Lenin to learn revolutionary theory. I had read a little, and I told myself it was enough, instead of really trying to understand. Then the companions of Liu Shaoqi advised us to take a shortcut in the studies of Marx and Lenin. So I stopped studying those works. They took advantage of our enthusiasm for Mao Zedong's works and invented fancy slogans like, "Mao's thought is the ultimate in contemporary Marxism-Leninism," or "One word of Chairman Mao's is worth 10,000 others." They disguised themselves as the true authorities on Mao's thought. They said, there are so many works by Marx and Lenin that they can't all be read. While claiming to take a shortcut, they tried to separate Mao Zedong's thought from Marxism-Leninism. Our party line warns us that during the socialist stage, we will still have classes, sharp class divisions, and the class struggle. In China, we still have some property owners, rich farmers, counter-revolutionaries, and criminals. They try to infiltrate and corrupt our society. In addition, we still have elements of the new bourgeoisie. That's why Chairman Mao has said that there will be a second, third, and fourth cultural revolution.
During the Cultural Revolution, students and workers went to the countryside together. It was the first time for some of them. They met the peasants and explained what was happening. The peasants also came to the towns to participate in meetings and public demonstrations. Today, many marches are organized between cities and rural communities. These marches are reminiscent of the famous Long March in China's history. They are good physical exercise, but what's more, they create a vital link between city and country, between the workers and the peasants. Today, 1,200 of the 8,000 workers in the factory will leave for the countryside. When they come back in 3 weeks, another group will leave. Not everyone agrees about these marches. Some people think that the missing labor force slows down production. We attended several meetings on this subject. The discussions went on for a long time. But even with many of its workers away, the factory still continues to function.
体向清洁工人和妇女同志好的。今天即将离开我们的生产岗位，非常深度压抑心里去。同志们，我们马上
Comrades, we're about to go. We know that those who remain in the factory will keep up production while we're gone. We'll be eager to hear from them. Don't worry. We will make this march a success. We'll do our best to show our appreciation to all those who've helped out. We'll see you when we get back. Comrades, the participants in this year's second march and field exercises are about to leave. Our past 3 years of experience have shown everyone in the factory the great advantages of these exercises. They do as much to keep up our morale as to develop our courage and physical strength. We hope that during this march you will continue to study, to uncover errors and contradictions, and to encourage the management of the factory. We hope that you will write and send us datsibas, which bring up any shortcomings you find in our work. We look forward to your return.
They'll walk 75 miles. At night, they'll camp out. Storm and thunder of the 5 continents. Our vision is far-reaching. With blistered feet, we go forward courageously. Poems. Their rhythm beaten out by bamboo clappers accompany the marchers. The peasants welcome them as they go through their villages. They work, talk, and live together.
Our long march has given us the opportunity of staying here with the peasants and hearing about their way of life. We would like to ask some of the peasants to tell us the story of their families and their village. Could you please tell us a few things about your past and also about the history of your family and the village? Well, since you want to know, I'll tell you how I suffered during my childhood. Nowadays, no one suffers like this anymore. I lost my father and mother when I was only 5 months old. I don't know their names, nor in which village I was born. I was 6 months old when they gave me away to a family who settled here. When I was 11, I chopped logs and gathered firewood. When I was 15, they married me off. Today, women are liberated. It wasn't like that before. In those days, we didn't dare say a thing. The reactionaries oppressed us, and we had no one we could go to. The Japanese invaded the area when I was 30. They burned the houses, took the men away, and raped the women. So we wandered around. We wandered, with no place to go. Today, thanks to Chairman Mao, we're happy. You, the workers, have come to the countryside to unite with us. Our country is one big family. A big family along with all the people in the world. And it's getting more and more prosperous. And that's a good thing. Before, neither children nor their parents had wool clothing. But today, we have lots of wool clothing, and even several pairs of boots. Since the liberation, we eat more and we eat better. We eat vegetables and meat. We eat noodles and soups, things we never had before. Today, under the leadership of Chairman Mao, there are tractors, bulldozers, hydraulic pumps, harvesters, and threshers. You can see all that in our village. Under the reactionaries, the poor stayed poor and the rich got richer. When we think back on that, it makes us laugh even in our sleep. It's wonderful. Look over there, little one. Turn around. Look at the chicken, it's fat. I want to tell about the past too. One day I went out for a walk with a 12-year-old boy, not far from here. The boy was only 12. When we came back, we saw a Kuomintang agent. Bang! The boy was shot through the ear. And bang! Another bullet grazed my cheek. I was 39 years old then, and now I'm 75. If it weren't for the liberation, I wouldn't be alive today. You see the difference between our past misery and the good life today. I would have been dead a long time ago. I have a lot more to say about all that we owe to the party. Go on. Go on, Grandpa. Tell us the rest of the story. Now I'm going to talk about more pleasant things. I have a son who works for the city government in town. One day, he invited me to visit him. I asked how to get there, and they told me to take bus number 44 or 45. The bus went really fast. I felt like the wheels weren't even touching the road, like we were in the clouds. There were lots of cars, big ones and little ones, red ones and green ones, coming and going. It was a fantastic sight. We've heard these peasant stories, the grandpa and the grandma. They compared the old life with the new one. They told us about their past suffering. As workers and peasants, we were both crushed. As workers and peasants, we were both exploited. We were treated worse than beasts of labor. My eldest brother used to work in a factory in Shanghai where he slaved day and night. He became ill from working so much. Finally, his strength gave out, and he collapsed at the end of a long workday. He died in front of the factory gate. My eldest sister went to work in a spinning mill in Shanghai when she was only a child. She caught leprosy and was thrown out the door. Eaten by leprosy, she died a horrible death. As for me, when I was still a child, I worked more than 18 hours a day. Now, since liberation, the working class has freed itself politically, culturally, and economically.
The young workers are listening to the veterans of the revolution who organized the first big railroad strike in 1923.
When the reactionaries were in power, Chinese workers had a miserable life. Workers from other countries could not imagine how much they suffered. In 1922, the railroad workers of Jiangxintian organized themselves. We held the first big strike on August 24th, 1922. It was the first big strike of workers on the Peking-Hankow line. The movement was based in Jiangxintian. The main demands concerned wages. But it went way beyond that. For example, one of the issues was the firing of 5 workers. It was a bitter struggle. The workers lay down across the tracks and tore the guns away from the police with their bare hands. The strikers held their ground. Zhao here was with them. Comrades, during the August strike, we stopped military trains. The villains charged us with their bayonets. We met them with our bare hands. Comrades, we were not afraid. We were not afraid to die. That was our revolutionary spirit. Justice triumphed over injustice. Comrades, with that spirit, we had won the first victory. Even though I'm over 80 years old, the revolutionary spirit is still there. I'm still in good health. Finally, I wish a long life to Chairman Mao, and good health to all the peoples of the world. That's all I have to say. The August strike was a big success. The railway company had to accept our demands. All this was very good. But something unfortunate happened during the strike. What happened? One man had turned informer. The strike officials had orders to arrest him. We put up a notice in front of the factory offices with his name and picture on it. Some people still didn't know who he was. One day, a group of workers were reading the notice when the director showed up. He was a foreigner, a Frenchman. The director came over to take a look and ripped down the notice. It's because this foreign director tore down the notice that we asked for his removal. We dared to struggle and dared to win. After that strike, we decided to form a union of railway workers. This union was founded in Zhengzhou on February 1st, 1923. On the night of February 6th, 11 union delegates, who were also Communist Party members, were placed under arrest. Liu Pingpo, our bearded comrade here, was arrested as he tried to pull a rifle away from the enemy. He got 1 year and 8 months in prison, where he continued to fight. To fight in a revolution, you can't fear death. If you are afraid, you're not a revolutionary. I fought with a soldier. I grabbed his gun away. They fired at us. The first bullet killed Ke Shukwai.
1966. That is when these monuments were built.
I was taken to be court-martialed in Baoting, where they put me in irons around my ankles, my wrists, and my neck. It was very bad. I still wasn't afraid. I continued to fight. We're old, but we're still strong. We've retired, but our spirits are still high. We must continue the revolutionary work that has been set out for us by the party and Chairman Mao. We must carry on. You young people in your 20s, you're the same age as the martyrs when they died. We must not forget the past. To forget the past is to betray it.
Shanghai is hosting an exhibit on the Paris Commune, an uprising of Parisian workers in 1871. The old railway workers have told the story of a strike they once organized, and the old peasants have spoken to the factory workers about their past experiences. This is how the people increase their collective consciousness and transform their recent past into historical knowledge. Oppression has always relied on ignorance of the past. Today, the Chinese people want to rediscover their own history. They want to be masters of their own future.
The Cultural Revolution has shown that the principles of the Paris Commune are still relevant. We must follow these principles to make our revolution a success. During the Cultural Revolution, the ties between the leaders and the people were strengthened. The same thing took place in the Paris Commune. We believe that the principles of the Paris Commune still have practical value today. To avoid the creation of a privileged class, the Commune decided that the annual salary should not be more than 6,000 francs. This was to guarantee that all the workers and members of the Commune would remain equal. To run for office, candidates had to meet certain requirements. They got rid of opportunists, hustlers, and empty speechmakers. They asked the electors to vote for those who were really ready to serve the people. During the Cultural Revolution, some cadres were criticized by the people. Why? They had been courageous. They had never been afraid of the enemy. They had dared to fight in the revolution. In those days, they were paid in kind. Now, they're paid a salary. And life in the cities is much easier. Anyway, we lost contact with the masses, and our revolutionary ardor had cooled down. That's why the people criticized us during the Cultural Revolution. Our main task is to struggle against the hidden attack of the bourgeoisie. We must fight against bourgeois ideas and against the concept of private property. Then we can keep hold of and extend the power of the working class.
To overthrow and then regain power, to revive a revolution that has lost its momentum. This was the meaning of the Cultural Revolution. The road to the future was made possible by those who marched in Peking.